I'm Joshua the Tribune. Have you ever had a fear that you felt like you could not look at and assess? Of course you have. We all have. And that's what this video is about, because we need to be freed. So I have learned that the enemy, Satan, loves to make us not look at our fears. We try to avoid our fears, when really the only way to be freed of our fears is to assess them deeply with God. If we are afraid of things and we don't actually assess them, it means that we can never conquer them. Why? Because only God can help us conquer those kind of fears and use them for His purpose. So, yes, people can conquer fears supposedly without God, but that's surface. The reason why it's surface is because it has no purpose to it. So, if you have a fear, especially a fear that has to relate with your purpose, it's essential to go straight to God about it and say, God, I have this fear. What exactly is it that I'm afraid of? So He can actually prove to you that your fear isn't really necessary. Now, a lot of our fears, I've noticed, are totally not even real. We are afraid of things that are imaginations. And these imaginations have to be cast down. They have to be destroyed. And the only way to do it is to find out that it is an imagination. If you never actually explore a fear and start realizing that 99% of the fears are things that you just conjured up in your head, if you never explore it, then you'll never know that it's conjured, because it will be real until you find out it's not real. Certain fears can only be unveiled as imaginations by the Father. And most of the most important fears that we're afraid of that are actually holding us back from doing powerful things and hearing from God and following His instructions are those that are imaginations, because Satan has put them in your path in order so that it's not really for you to just be afraid. It's so that you can't follow direction. Because if you think that fear is real, and this is like a real problem for you, then you cannot hear God on the matter, and then you cannot do the instruction that's very important that follows right afterwards. And then that's where the attack is. So I have seen this, and so what happens is when you have a fear, you have to notice it right away. And how do you notice it? Is you have to pay attention to it. You have to take your temperature. And this is a whole nother thing, taking our temperature. We will go into that in a whole nother video because that's a different topic. But it takes taking your temperature and knowing yourself, being able to hear God, really being conscious of these things, and to even know that you're afraid of something, because you can actually, let's say God has some kind of task for you to do, and you're afraid of something. Sometimes if you're not used to facing your fears and looking at your fears, you actually won't even realize that you're supposed to do that thing because you're afraid of something over there. You will just not see the whole thing. When that's something that God actually needs you to look at. God is very methodical. He has certain things that need to be done for each one of us to get us to a certain point. So if we're actually we can't skip steps. That's something else that with God we have to understand this. God does not skip steps, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. So if we don't look at our fear, we don't assess it, and there's a step behind that for us to move forward in His mission, and we don't see the fear, we ignore it, and we ignore the step, then we sit. There's nothing that we can do about that. And whenever that time does come when we do look at the fear, He will point straight to that step again. And that's why a lot of people are stagnant. It's because they don't want to face these things, because it's very difficult. Some of them don't even know they exist. And that's another thing the enemy does. A lot of the times people think the enemy is just some like ravenous beast or something like that, which he is. But he's also very cunning. Cunning to the point where he will do things that you don't even know are happening unless you are talking to God about it. Things that you don't know that are happening are the most powerful weapons against us, because we can't fight them. because we can't have strategy to defeat them. So what your relationship does with God on this matter is you are always, as you grow with God, you're always looking to see, God, is there a strategy against me that I'm not even aware of right now? Is it fear? Is it lust? Is it my culture? Is it the norms of society? Is it food? Is it pride? Is it anger? Am I hurt? That's another thing is hurt, pain. I'm hurting, so I don't want to look at it. No, you need to look at the pain, go with God, look at that hurt and pain and say, why am I hurting? And he will tell you why you're hurting, and he will want to fix it. And remember, when you're hurting, I've learned, this is very profound, and it took me so many years of pain to really realize this, that wouldn't go away. That God actually really shows us some pain on purpose, exposes us to it so that we can feel how he feels about a matter and that we can be effective in change in the world. So this is something that is included with the fear. And that's why we have to assess these things. Because remember, we're building. We are builders. We are partners with God in creativity. We are trying to receive a blueprint from him of our lives so we know what he is expecting of us to do so that we can actually carry out the mission. This is what we're doing. So when these things come up, which they will, we have to understand how to deal with them realistically. Because there are certain fears that come that even if you do, when you do recognize them, they make you shudder in purpose with God. But you have to confront these things. And that is how the enemy is defeated in this matter. He is defeated by our perspective. And that's the only thing that can work in this situation. And the rewards of facing our fears are unimaginable. They are so powerful, our rewards, because we get a relationship with God, who is everything. He is the center of everything, okay? And he's so wonderful. And second, we get purpose. We get purpose, we get fulfillment. And then ultimately, we get salvation. Because that's where we're going to be one with him. We're going to be going to see him after we die. So first, before you do any of this, you do need to have salvation. You need to be a Christian. You cannot get these principles that I'm sharing with you. You are totally, you can't get these principles unless you're a Christian. So for the people who think, oh, sounds great, I'm just going to go do it. No, you can't do it. You won't have you need the Holy Spirit to give you this heart and the wisdom to actually manifest these things. You need that. And so you need to be able to have salvation, be a Christian, and then grow your relationship with God. And this is how you do it. How God grows relationship with us is a lot of the times by facing things like this, facing our fears, him showing us that he is totally reliable. Him showing us that he will actually guide us and navigate us through even our emotions, navigating us, showing us what's in imagination, showing us that, yes, this is very scary, but I'm going to actually overcome it. There's another thing. He will say, this is real. This is a real fear. This could happen, but I won't let it happen. And even if I do, I'm going to work it for your good. So these are all little nuggets that you can take in your life and take it right now with you and actually assess your situation. For the non-Christian, the non-believer, you should be assessing, wait, I need to be I need to be a Christian. I need to actually accept Jesus as my personal Savior. That's the first thing I need to do. Then second, the person who is a Christian but is not thinking like this, you need to get to know God. You need to face your fear and get to know God. You cannot get to know God if you're not facing your fears. How can you get to know God like that? Being comfortable. No. How you get to know God is you step out. How you get to know God is you face things that you don't necessarily want to face. How you get to know God is you actually assess things that are very uncomfortable inside of you, inside of yourself. That's how you do it. And that's how he not only gets you to know him, But he establishes a relationship with you because he starts teaching you about yourself. And then that's where the partnership comes together, where you start knowing yourself. He already knows you, so that's not happening. You get to know him, and then you get transformed, and then it's a rhythm you get into. The rhythm is so important, and you get to the point where you're able to sense your fear right away and say, take it straight to God. God, why am I afraid of this? He's like, well, you're afraid of this because of this. But you don't need to be. I'll prove it to you. And he proves it to you. Or, that's very scary. Go in that direction anyway. And I'll show you I got your back. We can do it. And then he does it. And you're like, okay. Then the next time that fear comes up, or anything like it, you've already had experience and it gets less scary as time goes on. But if Satan succeeds at either getting you to ignore your fears, or you see it and don't want to face it, then you deal with torment every day for years and years and years. You're just tormented. And the reason is, well, it just keeps going on, is because God is not going to change his mind about something. He's not going to say like, oh, I want you to go on that stage and sing. I want you to draw this picture. I want you to write this script. I want you to design this theme park. He doesn't change his mind on those kind of things. Because he knows that will be the most beneficial thing for your life to do that. So when after years of torment of doing something like that, and not wanting to face that fear to go and do what God's pointing at, you come to a point where you're like, okay, I'm going to face it. God, what do you want? He's like, I want you to go back to that fear that you wouldn't face 10 years ago. And I want you to deal with that. That's what we're going to do. And then you find out why you shouldn't have been that afraid of it in the first place. And then you're like, wow, now I wasted 10 years. And now the enemy goes, ha, I made you waste 10 years. Now you have another battle to deal with. But it's all avoidable with looking at things right away as soon as you feel them, looking at them and assessing them. That is what this conversation is about. And there's so much to cover on this that is so rich. But this is a great introduction for somebody who's out there who's afraid of something, or it could be anything. It could be afraid that God won't talk to you. It could be afraid that you can't have a relationship with God. It could be you could be afraid that you'll spend time doing these principles and trying to find what I'm saying, and it won't work for you. That's satanic. That is a satanic attack, because he doesn't want you to hear what I'm saying. He doesn't want you to try it. But this is what I can promise you. If you try it and you step out, God will meet you. He will meet you and he will love on you. And you will know, I can do this. I can hear God. I can be his friend. I can talk. He's going to start talking to me. That I can create with God. Okay, I can change. I can become something that I don't think I can become. This is what he will do for you. So face your fears as soon as possible. Face them. We need you. We actually need you to face your fears, because there's commissions that you need to carry out that we're all a part of. We need it. Face them. And you'll find out they're not real. They're not real at all. I love you, and make sure that you continue to strive for these things, because they're very important. And remember, we are builders. Relationship with God first, building second. And in between there is the blueprint. And he will give it. Hail Jehovah.